As a kid, I thought child labor was cleaning my room and unloading the dishwasher. I soon found out that was much harder and nothing like little chores around the house. Child labor is actually the use of children in industries or businesses that made them do illegal or inhumane things. Child labor was really taxing and hard on the kids. Today I'll be focusing on child labor in the Industrial Revolution and the details of it. I will focus on three major areas of child labor in the Industrial Revolution, which are: why did it occur, what was the impact on children, and what was done to stop the practice. Child labor was very prevalent during the Industrial Revolution. One reason is because poverty and unemployment levels were extremely high. During this time, immigration rates were rising. This caused shops to pay their employees less. The families needed more money to support their wife and kids. They had to make their kids work. They were able to live better with more money and income coming in. There was an increase in factory production and many jobs opportunities opened up in the factory industry. Kids could work there because they needed little education and experience. Also, child labor expanded during this time because children were easier to control and manage. They didn't have any advocates or representations because their families supported them and wanted them to work. Children could be asked to work for longer hours because they didn't have a family to take care of. Also, because they wanted to make more money for their families, so they worked longer hours so they could get paid more. And they were sometimes better workers than adults. They were small and could do some skills better than the older population. The kids could work in smaller areas and were more useful in the factories. Another reason that child labor was present during this time is that they could be paid less than adults. Children workers were profitable for the businesses because they were paid less and worked more time than adults. 1.75 million children were paid significantly less than adults during this time. In agriculture, kids made 75% less than adults. The businesses did this to make more money and because they could. Child labor had an impact on the child's life a lot during the Industrial Revolution because childhood was lost. According to Irwin Yellowitz, 18% of American workers were younger than 16 in the 1900s. Educational and social development did not occur. They did not have time to go to school or hang out with friends because they had to work such long hours. The kids' parents didn't care about them. They just wanted them to make money. A child's life was to produce income rather than develop themselves. Also, child labor caused injury and health concerns. The kids were worked 10 to 14-hour days with minimal breaks. This was very strenuous on the kids. The machines in the factories were big, heavy, and extremely dangerous. Often they would cause death or serious injuries to the kids. Also, the fumes and toxins given off from the machines were bad for the kids' health. They would cause illness and deadly diseases that would sometimes cause the kids to die. The loss of education was another change to the kids' life. Primary school education was lost. Many kids had little to no education because they had to work. Education was needed for the kids because they were the future of America, but few kids received it. Also, education was needed for personal fulfillment, but the parents wanted them to work more. The kids didn't have much say in their lives. Child labor was eventually controlled in the U.S. The children finally got representation and they became active in raising awareness of the issue. According to Cindy Richer from Eastern Illinois University, Grace Abbott, Jane Addams, and Lewis Hine were advocates for the children. She explains how Grace Abbott participation in the Department of Labor and Children's Bureau set the stage for federal legislation and reforms. Abbott implemented the first law against child labor in the U.S. Also, Jane Addams received the Nobel Peace Prize for her work in fighting for the rights for kids. She believed children should have say in their own lives. Lewis Hine, another advocate, was hired by the National Child Labor Committee to investigate child labor and photograph it. He took pictures to show how child labor impacted the children. Child labor laws were eventually put into place. In Tom Harkin's research, he indicated that laws came into place in 1916, 1936, and 1938. The first federal child labor law in 1916 prohibited the movement of goods across state lines if minimum age requirements were violated. Also, he described the law made in the In 1936, that explained that the government would not purchase goods made by underage children. This helped end child labor. In 1938, federal laws set minimum ages of employment and hours of work. This helped the children receive rights. Another reason why child labor was ended was because of the Great Depression. Adults were in need of jobs and it pushed children out of work. Also, new factory equipment caused the need for less workers in the factories. The equipment was able to do most of the work by itself. The pressure from the laws created change throughout the U.S. Child labor was no longer needed and it was against the law. Child labor helped the U.S. economy but also created a large problem in how the U.S. treated young children. Child labor was very difficult and hard on the children. The kids worked really hard for little pay. It is nothing like the chores we have today and was very prevalent during the Industrial Revolution.